Hi, and welcome to New Mexico Rising. My name is Dan Gutierrez. I'm your host for at least today. And on today's program, we have movies, we have music, and we have TV shows. It's going to be awesome because today is Christmas. And I know a lot of you are celebrating Christmas. So Merry Christmas to all of you who are celebrating with their friends or family or even alone. Merry Christmas if you want to celebrate Christmas. And if you're not celebrating Christmas today, hey, no worries. Just have yourself one heck of a good day. Everybody else is off. So take that time for yourself. I wish I was out there celebrating Christmas. Honestly, I'm stuck here doing this, but no worries. It's 5:30 in the morning, and I got some cool stuff for you in today's show. A little later, I got a couple of local bands that are performing some holiday songs, such as the Eryn Bent Band with her song Christmas in Santa Fe. Also, I have Noah Centineo from the TV show The Recruit that's available on Netflix, and he talks about being the executive producer and starring in it.
Yeah, a lot of it was understanding, the corporate side of the CIA, right?
And that's all going to happen right here on New Mexico Rising. As we're moving into this new year, millions of families are facing an uphill battle of some sort. It's also due to the ongoing impacts of the pandemic. There's inflation, evictions, job loss, natural disasters, and more. The Salvation Army is committed to providing service and love to those in need and need help to kick off the new year. To help ensure the Salvation Army's wide range of services reaches more than 25 million people, they're calling upon the new and regular supporters to give. So today, we have Commissioner Kenneth G. Hodder, who's the National Commander of the Salvation Army, and Eryn and Ben Napier, hosts of HGTV's hit show, Hometown. They're here to show us a little bit of details on how to give back so that every family may live without fear of homelessness, food insecurity, or loss of hope. Welcome to the show, you three.
Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you.
An opportunity.
All right, why is it important to keep giving through the new year?
Right now, almost 2/3 of all Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and we're seeing that evidenced at the Salvation Army through an increase in the applications for assistance of about 30 to 50%, in some locations as much as 400%. People are having to make choices between putting food on the table or Christmas presents under the tree, between putting fuel in their cars or paying the heating bill. These are choices that people shouldn't have to make, and the Salvation Army is asking everyone to help their neighbors make sure that they don't have to make those choices by giving this Christmas season.
So how has the Salvation Army adapted to the community's needs, especially during the costs of everything rising and the lingering effects of the pandemic?
Well, the Salvation Army is seeing increasing costs, just as everyone else is seeing increasing costs. Our only ability to respond to that sort of change is to ask people to give a little bit more, to go a little bit deeper in their giving, because ultimately it's people giving to their neighbors that's going to make the difference. And the Salvation Army in every local community is going to be looking to ask people, help us make sure that your neighbors are taken care of.
How have you seen the Salvation Army meet local needs?
We've spent a lot of time with the Salvation Army this year on a couple volunteer days and helping make a shelter that felt more like a home.
But the biggest thing for us is the way that we've been able to get our daughters involved in it.
Yeah.
And that's, as parents, that's the front of mind for you is how am I raising these kids that will one day be adults? And for us, charity is a big deal. It's important for us, and the Salvation Army was our first introduction to charity, but also it's now been our daughter's first introduction to charity.
It has been, and I don't think that I realized until the last couple years that when you give to the Salvation Army, it goes directly to your local branch of the Salvation Army. So you're not giving to someone far away, a nameless, faceless person that you don't know. You're giving to someone you might actually know, someone who might be in your church, somebody you might work with, somebody you might know in your community. And that, to me, is why the Salvation Army is so special, is because it takes care of your local, hometown neighbors and community who's in need.
All right, so how can people get involved and support their local Salvation Army?
The best source of information is at salvationarmyusa.org. All of the volunteering and giving opportunities in your community can be found there. If they find a Salvation Army kettle on their local street corner, they can also not only put a little money in the bucket, but they can use Google Pay, Apple Pay, Venmo, PayPal. And if you're at home, you can say to your Alexa device, Alexa, make a donation to the Salvation Army.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thanks
Thanks
you.
again,
Thank you.
and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And if you can help out the Salvation Army, that would be fantastic. Our next performers are La Maleta Roja. I met up with them over at Gambay Wellness Spa and Sanctuary Cafe. They have a really cool Zen garden in the backyard, and these two got to perform for us. Yeah. Thank you very much, La Maleta Roja. A little later in the show, we get to see a robot travel to Mars and the recruit, the new guy at the CIA. What's he up to? Is he going to survive his first week in the job? All that and more on New Mexico Rising. For the movie fans out there, Acclaimed is a touching documentary about a triathlete's inspirational journey back from a near-death accident. It's the story of Neil Myers, an amateur triathlete who just won the biggest race of his life with his team, the New York City Triathlon, and only 4 weeks later, he was fighting for his life in the Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital ICU. Spoiler alert, Neil Myers survived this harrowing incident, and we're lucky to have him here today to share his inspiring story. And after being in the hospital for nearly a month, in a wheelchair for another month, followed by extensive rehab, he could get back on his bike within 4 months of this accident. So welcome to the show, Neil. How are you, buddy?
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me, Dan. I'm actually doing great. Thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit about your story? I didn't want to tell the actual story of what happened, but I was going to leave that to you. So can you tell us a little bit of what happened and why you decided to make this documentary?
Absolutely. So I was in Santa Rosa training for the next triathlon. It was just, as you say, a month after New York, um, on Gibraltar Road, which is a very steep climb. I'd finished my training. I was on my way home late for dinner as usual, and I was just racing down, came around a blind curve, and there was a truck in my lane coming right back at me. No chance to react to that, so I hit it head on. Went right through the windshield, broke 16 bones in 26 places, collapsed both lungs, bruised my heart, had a massive concussion, brain bleed. Ended up, as you said, in the hospital and the rehab and so forth. The reason I made this film, the truth is, at first I didn't want to, because making a documentary about yourself is, it's a really tough thing to do. But the filmmaker in me looked at the story, and it was such a great story. I just knew I was never going to get a story like that. So that really won out, and I ended up making the documentary.
So what was the most challenging part of like your journey back to health?
Is patience. An injury that severe, it takes a long time to heal. It took me a full year to really get back, and you're working hard, and it just takes time, and that was hard for me. I can remember last day in the hospital, that my main nurse came and said, "Neil, you survived. You're healing. You're gonna make it. I promise you. But not every day is going to be a step forward. Some will be a step back, and you need to keep faith." And my advice is just every day expect the best, but accept the rest. And I thought that was just great advice, and I had to really heed that for that entire year.
So how are you feeling today? Are there like any races planned for the horizon?
So I feel great. I'm 100% back. I think that's surprising to people that saw me that first day, but I think it's really just a testament to our bodies, and our human body knows how to heal. In terms of races, no, I don't race anymore. And the reason is, I don't go fast anymore. I don't want to go back to the hospital. So to stay safe, I go at what my friends call Neil speed. But I do train. I've been actually back to Gibraltar more times, climbed it more times since the accident than before.
Gotcha. So where can we check out Climb, and what do you think, and what do you hope that the viewers could take away from it?
Sure. Best thing is just go to the website. It's climbdoc.org. That's climbdoc.org. Everything you need is there. You can watch a trailer, read reviews, you can rent or buy the film there as well. I'm a filmmaker. What I hope is that people are entertained, and that seems to be the case. But the comment I hear the most, Dan, is that people are inspired by it. I think we're all on a journey. We all have things to do, and sometimes we get stuck, and it's hard to take that next step. When you see somebody that was battered down so close to death and makes it all the way back over a long journey, I think it gives people inspiration that they can do the same thing.
And as a filmmaker and artist, if you could go whisper in your ear on day one of production all the way to today, and you knew what was going on today, what piece of advice would you give yourself on day one of production? Say, hey, don't do this or do this.
Yeah, I would say get B-roll from the day of the accident. It was 6 months before I started making it, and by that time it was really hard to go find the visuals to tell the story.
Get more B-roll is the rule. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Neil, for joining me this morning. One more time with the website so we can go check out your documentary.
You bet. It's climbdoc.org. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining me this morning, Neil.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
If you're a lawyer and you get thrown into a world of international espionage within your first week at the CIA, things might put you on edge, I assure you. So today we have the star and executive producer of the new series, The Recruit on Netflix, Noah Centineo, here to talk about his new show and tell us all about living his first life in the CIA. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Doing great. All right. When you were doing research in your role, I got a question. Did you have to study more of like the world of the CIA or the world of being a lawyer, or how do you intertwine the two and kind of put this into your show?
Yeah, a lot of it was understanding, the corporate side of the CIA, right? Being a lawyer and joining the CIA, Owen Hendricks, he joins it because he thinks it's going to be safer. So I just wanted to learn, really what the back end side, the administrative, the logistical side of being a lawyer at the CIA would be. And what I found is it's really like the post office, but with secrets.
The secrets, what draws you to the secrets that you liked about that?
Well, so Owen Hendricks, fresh out of law school, instead of taking a corporate gig, he decides to go to the CIA. And one of the secrets is that he gets assigned this. It's a case, if you will, but really what it is he has to go through what they call the crazies. And the crazies is when a bunch of people send mail to the CIA threatening to blackmail the agency, saying that they know things. Now, most of the time it's absurd and nothing really is valid, but he comes across a letter from a former asset who's been imprisoned, asking the CIA to exonerate her of all of her crimes, or else she's going to release information that could bring down the CIA. And that's very, very serious. And that's a case that he has to take as a lawyer very seriously. Otherwise, his career could go up in flames. And this is, by the way, something that does happen often.
That's what I saw an interview saying that most of the stuff in this, or a lot of the stuff that's in this series, is real. Working as executive producer and star, like, how do you kind of navigate what's real and how do you put that into this project?
You know, I really delegate all of that to Alexi Hawley. Alexi Hawley had analysts and advisors and former lawyers and former people at the CIA giving counsel. But it's true. A lot of what takes place in The Recruit happens, at the CIA, has happened and will continue to probably happen.
So, when you're looking into the stories of behind the scenes of the CIA, what are some of the coolest things that you've learned, like, that surprised you?
It is what you think.
Oh, okay.
We got, well, for the most part, I mean, you have to be vague about these sort of things. We were able to go to the CIA 2 days ago, actually sit down with 6 analysts and 6 attorneys. We asked a lot of questions and we were given very few answers.
So, okay, just like the CIA. I got one more question. Any idea of whether expanding Noah Centineo will do anything to become America's top heartthrob into a feature or a TV series for Netflix?
Say it again?
I see on your IMDb you have a movie that you wrote called Noah Centineo Will Do Anything to Become America's Top Heartthrob. And I was wondering if you would expand that into a Netflix series.
Oh, that's so funny. That's on my IMDb.
Yeah, I just saw it there. I was like, you're seen as a writer credit on that, which is kind of funny on that.
I love that. I've never heard of that project in my entire life. I'm assuming someone got access to my IMDb. Maybe it was the CIA, and maybe they're playing a trick on me.
It could be. It's all that.
Because I've never heard of that project, but it is true. I will do absolutely anything to reclaim the title, America's Heartthrob.
Well, there you go. Going from a teen heartthrob to CIA mystery man. Hey, thank you very much for hanging out with me on the show today, bud.
Thank you.
Check out the new series, The Recruit. It's available now on Netflix. Thank you, guys. And coming up next, we have a little robot that could, who traveled all the way to Mars and survived, and the Eryn Bent Band with Christmas in Santa Fe. All right, here on New Mexico Rising. My next guest is the director of a movie of a small robot that's traveling to small unseen worlds and having to deal with the elements day in and day out. As people are expecting this robot to fail over and over again, it finds itself, I guess, persevering beyond what you expect for a small little robot that was only expected to last about 90 days. But fortunately for us, this is a true story about a small robot that's on the planet of Mars, and we have documentary filmmaker Ryan White, who's here to tell us the story of a little robot named Oppie that could. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me.
All right. I'm a big fan of your work. Your latest project is about Opportunity, which is the robot that's on Mars. And here in Albuquerque, we have a small scale, or actually a matching opportunity. And some of the scientists here in Albuquerque do tell the robot what to do day in and day out. They kind of showed me this a long time ago. I just wanted to see what your take was and getting immersed into the world of Opportunity and how traveling that far and what we're learning out there in Mars. I know that's a lot of questions, but what'd you get?
Well, I am a total space nerd and have been my entire life. So I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and I I desperately wanted to be an astronaut. And so that was a dream that never worked out for me, and I became a filmmaker. But I knew as a documentary filmmaker that I could probably somehow con my way back into that world and live vicariously this dream that never panned out for me. And so the people that work in these industry are like rock stars to me. And so, when I began this project, it was about getting to go along for this journey alongside these people that spent, almost 20 years working on these rovers, because it took many years to build them at the beginning. So the documentary is for sure about this little rover outlasting the odds on Mars, and we do take you to Mars on our film, but really at its heart, it's about the human beings here on Earth, millions of miles away from her, that are building her and operating her every day, and essentially falling in love with her like a family member.
Gotcha. So what were some of the things that you learned that, yes, this robot was only supposed to be there for a very short while, and it's surpassed its livelihood to about 15 years. What are some of the things that like really have shocked not just the scientists, but you interviewing these scientists that they learned from this robot?
Yeah, so the mission of the robot is twofold. They have a scientific mission, and then they obviously have a technological mission. So even the fact that they could land these rovers on Mars was unheard of. The first two missions previous to this one had crash landings on Mars, and so were massive NASA failures. And so even landing Opportunity and her twin sister Spirit was almost impossible. And they both did land successfully in 2004, but also they both had a very specific scientific mission, and that was to discover if drinkable water, had ever existed on Mars. And throughout both of their journeys, they landed on opposite sides of the planet, but they both, unequivocally proved that drinkable water did once exist on Mars. And in fact, Opportunity, they call it the 300 million mile hole in one, because she actually landed in a crater that immediately, the moment she opened her eyes, she found evidence of bedrock, which is a type of geological formation that would happen in the presence of water. And so, there are two current rovers currently on Mars that are alive. Opportunity and Spirit missions are both over, and those rovers are continuing that scientific mission to find the building blocks of past life on Mars. So, these are adorable, lovable creatures, and it is a fun journey to watch, but there's also a huge scientific legacy to what they're discovering about our sister planet.
Gotcha. And I'm going to take you back a little bit and talk about another project you worked on. Ask Dr. Ruth, a wonderful documentary. How is Dr. Ruth? How is she? I know, do you still talk to her?
I saw Dr. Ruth 2 weeks ago when I was in New York. I get a phone call from Dr. Ruth probably every other day. She's constantly filling up my voicemails. So that tells you she's wonderful. She's just as chatty as ever. I spent a few hours with her in her apartment the other day. She was incredibly careful during COVID, which I'm very grateful for, because as we all know, she's a national treasure. And I know it's very difficult for her because she's about the most social creature one could ever meet. But she took very good care of herself and sheltered up in her apartment. We did lots of FaceTimes together, but she's doing great. She'll turn 95 in June, but still moving just as fast as ever, popping in and out of her chair every 2 seconds. And so she's wonderful.
That's awesome. I would kill to be able to talk to her, because she's someone that I look up to, honestly. So you keep that relationship with her.
Oh yeah, I will forever.
All right, well, thank you very much for being part of the show this morning. I want to tell everybody out there, check out Ryan White's brand new documentary. It is Good Night Oppie, which is the story of Opportunity. So check it out. It's available on Amazon. I am a huge fan of Ryan White's documentaries. All right now we have Eryn Bent Band performing her song, Christmas in Santa Fe.
Been here 10 years, making the desert my home. Sure is a long way from Montana to New Mexico. There's one time of year that warms my heart and fills me with cheer. There's one special day. It's Christmas in Santa Fe. Gonna stroll a canyon road in the snow, glowing roads, hot cocoa in hand. Sure, I miss my hometown, but there's just something about this land so enchanting. Cheers to a new year. Here's to us, far and near. Oh, I know it's been hard and we may be apart, but let's smile and celebrate today. Wherever you may be, spending Christmas in Santa Fe. Yeah, this year's been hard, but we made it this far. So raise your glass. Oh, cheers to a new year. Here's to us, far and near. Yeah, I know it's been hard and we may be apart, but let's smile and celebrate today. Wherever you may be, spending Christmas in Santa Fe. Ooh, Christmas in Santa Fe.